Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice, encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May, and today I have with me Andrew Anunciation, and he is the founder of Cacao King. And so without further ado, I want to allow him to tell his story and to introduce himself to us. So hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us how you came to, familiarize yourself with cacao, and then we can jump into like what we use it for and all the amazing benefits.
Awesome. Let's dive right in. So, when I was a child, selling chocolate was actually one of my first forms of making money and, starting to, kind of open my eyes to working and, raising money as a child. And my dad actually set me up to sell chocolate door to door. And I saw chocolate, I think, at a very young age as like a commodity, as like an item that, you can make money and to, function in society. I grew up in California, in Southern California. And when I got older, I joined the spiritual community. I lived in Hawaii, the beautiful Garden Island of Kauai, and I was so inspired by the spirit of aloha and sharing that I really wanted to have something for myself to share to the community. And I started sharing cacao, and during that time, I found out that the Aztecs actually used cacao as currency. So that's saying that money grows on trees. Well, back then it did. And so I really began sharing this medicine as if I was giving away free gold to my friends. And if you can imagine, if people started receiving free money, the vibration and the excitement and the happiness and the joy of, receiving something for just literally being, I think the vibration, the value, the worth of people really rose in the community. And I just found that to be of such a value.
That's so cool. Yeah. I love that spirit of giving, and just for the sake of that, and, with no expectation, of getting anything back. But in the emails that you and I exchanged, you wrote the biggest treasure from cacao is connection.
Yeah,
Can
definitely.
you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So after I was living in Hawaii, I began sharing cacao to my friends, which really rose the vibe, and it really brought more connection to my life. And so after that, I traveled back to California, where I spent most of my life. And I was traveling to different music festivals, which I was really feeling called to that scene. And I just began sharing cacao to one festival, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And it brought me to so many different people that I met. And then later leading me to the Nobe indigenous people, which is one of the 7 indigenous tribes of Panama. And from all these years of sharing cacao, I'm really so blessed to really have met so many different people in my life because of Cacao King. And, the cacao in ceremony, in the cacao ceremonies that I lead and that I facilitate and that I teach others in the Cacao King ceremonialist training, connection is so important, because connection with ourselves, connection to the divine, connection to the earth, connection to the elements, connection to others, I really believe that, beyond this lifetime, when we perhaps leave this body or leave this planet and move on to the next transition, we're not going to be bringing this material possessions that we're gathering, but perhaps about the memories and the connections and those moments that we really made with each other are really going to go with us to that next place. And hopefully that will ripple out into the world to make a positive impact to humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. Um, what, so let's maybe go into the ceremony aspect of it so people get like a
Sure.
little better idea of like what it really means um, to take part, or
Mm.
to, like really, again, just make the connection with the cacao itself. So what does that look
Yeah,
like from your perspective and your practices?
sure. So I think it really goes back to how I learned cacao ceremony. And I learned it, being an assistant to someone in, I believe, in New Mexico, just assisting them and making the cacao, supporting them. And then meeting the Nobe indigenous people, I learned what they do in the ceremony. And what they do is that they drink cacao all night long, from nighttime to sunrise. No food, no water, just cacao. And the cacao ceremony is actually used to help heal the sick and to get rid of evil spirits within the community. And now, because of modern technology, Western science, we now know that cacao, it's actually known as a natural antidepressant. So it helps elevate the mood. It also works with your cannabinoid system. It synergistically works with psilocybin mushrooms, with marijuana, and also it has the theobromine, which actually translates from the Greek word, which means food of the gods. And when you look into the deep history of cacao, the divination and the different rituals that perhaps the Aztecs and the Maya used the cacao, is very fascinating. And I think that really the deepest wisdom of cacao ceremonies and the power of cacao really is reminder to humanity and to us of how important our intentions are. Really, what is it that we're really calling into our lives? What is it that we're really wanting to invoke, not only for ourselves, but within our communities that we're involved in? And yeah, that's just a slice of it, really, for the ceremonial piece. And really cacao, it's one of the most antioxidant rich foods on the planet, which means that it may help cure cancer. So, this is such a beautiful, subtle plant medicine, perhaps more compared to like psilocybin mushrooms or DMT or ayahuasca in the more like trippier sense. But, I've also heard that it actually can release DMT, um, cacao. And when I've actually done cacao ceremonies where I've drinking cacao and done breath work, I've actually like seen like an entity. And I think that, this is one of the most complex foods on the planet. I'm not exactly even sure if scientists or people who've actually really researched cacao has actually found the full constituents of the cacao, because it is a very, very complex food that has so many constituents to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important just to, again, like you said, um, like reinforce this concept of intention with ceremony. Like one of the reasons we even, do ceremony is to, again, make that connection with the sacred of some way, shape, or form, whatever that is, in your practice. And then, once you make the connection with the sacred, bringing in your intention, because that really can amplify, what you're trying to bring into the world, or what you're trying to make better about the world or for yourself, or, so many things. And I think a lot of us, especially in the Western world, are living a life of disconnection. And so through this life of disconnection, bringing back the connection and bringing back the intention that just opens so many doors to fulfillment, to healing. Yeah. And then also too, I just want to like reinforce that when you talk about cacao, you're using the raw plant, right? It's not like,
Mm.
yeah, it's not like you're going out and buying chocolate at the store. And
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point to actually touch upon. So if anyone is familiar with cacao, or they're just just looking to read or to understand more about it, cacao, like I said in the previous comment, that it's one of the most complex foods on the planet, one of the most constituents of even making this food, and the process of even making chocolate is so complex. I mean, you start with a fruit pod, and inside that pod can hold 30 to 60 cacao beans surrounding a white fruity flesh that does not taste like chocolate. And what they do is they ferment these beans with that white fruity flesh for about 7 days. And then after that 7 days, after they've harvested it out in the jungle, in the wild, where there's deadly snakes and toucans and sloths, which is such amazing hard work. And if you've never done that, I highly recommend being able to get a taste of what that's like, because it is, once you do that, you will have more of a reverence and a respect for chocolate, for cacao. And after that 7 day fermentation process, you sun dry it, where you rake those beans every 20 to 30 minutes for 3 to 4 days. And after this over 10-day process, then you roast it. And you got to make sure you roast it perfectly, because you don't want it burnt. And then you have to grind it up so fine that that chocolate bean, that fermented, sun-dried, roasted cacao bean, turns into pure ceremonial cacao, pure full spectrum cacao. And this is the cacao that I'm talking about. And when a lot of people, I believe, may know more about cacao powder or cocoa powder, and what that is actually when you have that full spectrum cacao, you extract the fat content, the cacao butter. And what you have left is this byproduct, which people are now pulverizing that and making cacao powder, which I do not recommend consuming, because this cacao powder can actually may actually pull nutrients from your body instead of giving to you the benefits. So if you can imagine, something that's full spectrum, you getting the full benefits, you getting the full euphoric effect from the mind, opening up the heart, really tuning in with your intention. You're not just consuming this byproduct. And if you go to the indigenous, when they extract the cacao butter, the byproduct that people have been turning into cacao powder, that goes rancid within about 3 to 4 days. And so I saw from the indigenous people, the people that, are connected to nature, connected to each other, people that, they live with each other for their whole lives. They're making maybe $1 a pound selling these cacao beans, and literally devoting their lives to grow this for the planet, for the whole world, for all of humanity, and they don't even know maybe what impact they're doing. And I think that there's so much information, there's so much things that we can be you know the knowledge and the wisdom of exploitation, and just the understanding of what's really going on in the economic field of humanity and what's really happening. It really gives us more of an understanding of where our food comes from, and I think that in itself also helps us to connect.
yeah, for sure. I want to circle back to like when you were comparing it with some other plant medicines, and you mentioned DMT and ayahuasca,
Mm,
and
mm,
those typically and by reputation, like you said, have a much more I would say like drastic experience, maybe, or like
mm,
contrast experience. So I think it's important to also talk about the like when we go through ceremony and we're having a healing experience, it doesn't always have to be so stark and with contrast. Like it can be gentle, and like even I think embracing the gentleness of the plant that you're making that connection with is probably part of the lesson within the ceremony, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing where you bring into this conversation and talking about gentleness. I think, especially in the Western society, like I said, I'm from California, and there's a lot of doing. There's a lot of doing and doing and doing, and you come over here to the East, into say Thailand or Southeast Asia, where a lot of people are more into relaxing and taking it easy and no rushing, and like it'll get done when it gets done and not on your timeline. And these two extremes of being too relaxed or too going, I think maybe that has something to do where the Buddha talked about this middle way. And I think when you talk about this gentleness, it really brings up the fact of depending on how much trauma or traumatic events one person has gone through, maybe you don't need another traumatic event to kind of spin you up again. Maybe you need actually something more relaxing and gentle to calm your nervous system and go into a parasympathetic, and to really feel safe and feel loved, where we can then open up from that space. And this is what I teach in my trainings, and this is why I'm such a big believer in being and helping to facilitate safe and loving spaces.
Yeah. So with that being said, are there specific reasons that people seek out cacao ceremonies? You mentioned trauma or healing from trauma, but are there more things, or is it mainly just focused on, like sort of like processing emotions and healing trauma?
So a lot of people may experience or want to experience a cacao ceremony when they're actually getting out of a difficult chapter in their lives. So maybe you got out of a 10-year marriage, or maybe you just got out of a really big career and you're wanting to, transition out of that. This is an amazing time to do cacao ceremony, because the cacao is going to really help bring those stagnant, those suppressed emotions to the surface, and really begin to open up our hearts, and really begin to show us and to give us the opportunity to really look deep within ourselves of what's really important for me, what's really important for me right now. And this life that I've been living, this life that I've been pushing myself and being burnt out, and having my boss just push me and push me for them to get this work done. People are waking up. People are waking up from this and really realizing, like, hey, this isn't the life that I want to live, and this isn't the dream life that I want to be signing up for. And I think a lot of people right now are being waken up, especially during these last couple years of being able to just, when they're just being stuck at home and can't go out. And we can go on and talking about this, but really the real reason is really, what is it in me that wants to come forth in the world? What's my medicine that wants to come forth to the world? My inner medicine, this vessel. What is it that this vessel wants to release and to show? Connecting to ourselves, connecting to the divine, connecting to the earth, connecting to the elements.
Absolutely. And I think that's even more important, just to sort of reinforce and mention again that we are spiritual beings having a human experience on this planet. And so when we get disconnected from ourselves, when we get disconnected from the planet, that really, it ripples throughout our lives. And I think so much of, whether you just want to call it general unhappiness and discontent, to full on, anxiety and depression, and even maybe even more complex emotional health issues, can be linked back to disconnection. And so it's so important that, and I think that's what's so magical from my perspective about learning about cacao, is that it is from the earth. Mother Earth, it is a fruit of the earth. And, if you make the effort to go seek out this piece of Mother Earth and take part and bring your intention and the willingness to open up and let go, and like you said, open up the heart, I think that's a big piece for a lot of people too, that they probably don't realize when they start. I know, like thinking back on, my spiritual and healing journey, when I was looking at like either healing physical things within myself or emotional things, I didn't really think about heart opening until it happened. And then just, the gravity and the impact of that. So yeah, I would definitely, if this is calling out to anyone out there, I would definitely, do some more digging, find like a good guide, a good, teacher, and approach it with reverence, I would say.
Oh,
So what else? What have we not talked about yet? Do we want to talk about, dive deeper into like working through emotions with cacao, or?
sure. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. So it's really interesting. I love in my training, I love to take my participants, the people who really want to facilitate these loving and safe spaces through cacao ceremonies. I love to take them through kind of a journey within themselves so that, they can really understand emotions, like sadness, fear, um, depression, love, safety. And, I think when we really have this clear understanding and this awareness, within oneself of, first off, what traumatic events have I gone through? What trauma have I gone through? How does that affect my life, my daily life, my work life, my relationships, and to really dig deep within myself, because I feel that for one who facilitates this work and one who facilitates any work, I feel like one must really have awareness and understanding within themselves to really share this work and to hold space for other people. And I think that, when we understand these emotions and the gifts of them, and when you under access them or when you over access them, it's really just bringing more clear awareness. And perhaps this word can be, maybe overused, or, when we hear awareness, maybe we think of spirituality or something, but I think just awareness is just collecting more data. It's collecting more truth. It's becoming more knowledgeable. It's attaining a wisdom that we see, that we know that to be true. And I feel that when we are able to clearly see things as though they are, how much more do we have the capacity and the authority to also share this with other people? And yeah, we can, yeah, it's such a broad and deep thing, emotions, and even I think it's so brave that whoever's listening to this podcast right now, or us speaking, and if you're someone that's maybe scared to go through your emotions, or you're someone who maybe doesn't feel that you're tapped into your emotions, or you find it hard to tap in through your emotions, I just want to encourage you to just keep going, keep being connected to yourself, keep tuning in with yourself. And the more awareness that you can bring to yourself, the more acceptance you can bring to yourself, and the more acceptance you can really bring to this world. And what a great place this world would be when, if we were to all just accept ourselves and each other. And how would we really see ourselves as a high value, high worthy, individual to that knows that we have a medicine and a gift to share.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it, like you said, emotions, it's a broad topic, a broad subject, but depending on what we've been through in our lives, I feel like some of us like go, can be like as like full extreme is like completely shut down with emotions, and like really like doesn't really feel anything until maybe like something like we've really been pushed to a certain limit, and then an emotion comes up and we go through that feeling. Or maybe we don't go through it the whole way. Maybe it comes up and then we immediately like push it back down. Or like some people, again, like maybe they're so raw that they like feel every single thing and it becomes overwhelming.
Mm.
So,
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
I think it's so interesting that it's kind of like a practice. I think, like getting to really, again, the willingness to dive into emotions, and even maybe just like keeping a list. I have like a whole book of emotions, and
Yeah.
it's a fun exercise to like flip through and just pick one and be like, okay, so when I think about this word, what comes up? Where do I feel it in my body? Do I have memories or like thoughts that the things I haven't thought about in a long time? Or, excuse me, I think, especially again, like in a safe space. So, like, if you don't feel safe doing that, like by yourself, definitely find someone that can facilitate that with you and for you, because it really is important for us to, like you said, awareness. But I think with that awareness comes a deeper understanding. And the
Yeah, definitely.
more we have that understanding, maybe the more permission we give ourselves to to keep seeking and keep sort of like re-educating ourselves, maybe even just about ourselves.
Amazing.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. What else? Anything else?
I mean, man, we can talk about a lot of things.
Yeah.
We talk about
Um,
drinking cacao, different types of cacao,
oh,
making
are there
cacao
different
drinks,
types?
cacao for ceremony.
Okay. Are there
We
different
can
types
talk
of cacao?
about yeah, sure. I mean, the different types that I'm referring to is like the different processes. So like as I was sharing before, when you have that cacao pod, inside that cacao pod can hold 30 to 60 cacao beans surrounded by that white fruity flesh. You can ferment that for about 7 days and then sun dry it for 3 to 4. You roast it. You can peel the shell. The shell is used for smoking blends. You can smoke it. You can use it for tea. You can also use it as compost, putting it back into your garden, into the earth. You can grind up those beans, just not too fine, but just grind it up and you create nibs, which is just the broken down beans. Um, yeah, you got the ceremonial cacao, which is the cacao paste. It's made by crushing the roasted cacao beans into a liquid because the bean may have 50% or more fat content. So it's just like pure chocolate syrup. And then when that solidifies, it turns into ceremonial cacao. And yeah, that's the best thing to use for making cacao drinks, making chocolates. People have made mushroom chocolates, marijuana chocolates. They make drinks. They put it in their smoothies. If you're just really looking to just boost your immune system, cacao is amazing for that. Um, so yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Um, so yeah, so I guess like so you mentioned before that typically in the ceremonies that you drink it all night long with like no other
Yeah,
substances. But then
right.
you also mentioned maybe like smoking pieces of it or smoking parts like through the process. Is that
So,
would that be part of a different ceremony?
so the smoking, I don't do anything that's relating to the smoking piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the for my understanding, for like the cacao shells that can be smoked, it's kind of like can be used as like a recreational thing. People also can blend it up in their
Oh,
tobacco
okay.
blends or yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell us so you're at cacaoking.com.
Correct. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in learning more about cacao, I have a free PDF on my website. You can go to cacaoking.com. What is cacao, cacao history, origins of Cacao King, different types of cacao, making cacao drinks, cacao for ceremony. Um, and then, yeah, if you want to connect with us, we're on Instagram, just Cacao King, all one word, CACAO KING. And if anyone's interested in doing like a one-on-one online session or doing any sort of training, I offer a Cacao King ceremonialist training live here in Thailand and Southeast Asia, and a 9-week program online. And then if anyone wants to give our cacao a try, I'd love to offer a free discount code for you and for all the listeners today. You can just type in free 10.
Awesome. Sorry, my dog is. I don't know if you could hear her in the background. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, everyone,
my pleasure.
definitely check it out. I'm gonna keep educating myself and digging deeper, and I really encourage you to come to this with an open mind and an open heart, and you know, you never know like what beautiful doors can be open within yourself and to your community and those that you surround yourself with when we do work like this. Like I said, like on my journey, I never really knew what to expect until I was in it sometimes. So, so I think it can be super powerful and beneficial and have just wonderful ripple effects. So thank you so much. It was really great talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Appreciate it.